Today, we gather not merely to learn, but to awaken something buried deep within us, a power the Stoics spoke of with quiet strength. It is the power to shape our lives from within, to wrest control from the chaos of the world and root it firmly within ourselves. In an age of distractions, constant noise, and the relentless tug of other people's opinions, it is easy to lose sight of the simple truth. The quality of your life depends not on circumstances, but on the state of your mind and the discipline of your actions. The Stoics taught us three things that, when mastered, will separate you from the scattered crowd and elevate you to an unshakable individual. These three things are simple in words, yet mighty in practice. Focus yourself, believe yourself, act yourself. Each principle is a pillar of personal freedom. Focus teaches you to master your attention. Belief instills unshakable trust in your own worth. Action ensures that what you know becomes what you live. But here's the truth. Self-belief is not something you find. It is something you forge. It is a muscle, and like any muscle, it strengthens with resistance. Every time you push past self-doubt, every time you silence that inner critic, you get stronger. You become more than the sum of your fears. You become unstoppable. So what does it take to win this battle? It takes relentless action, an unshakable identity, and a mindset that refuses to break. It takes understanding that no one is coming to save you, because you don't need saving. You need belief. Belief in your ability, in your resilience, in your capacity to rise above every obstacle thrown your way. Today we will walk through these principles step by step. We will explore them not as abstract ideas, but as concrete, practical forces that can be applied in the modern world. There will be no fluff, no fantasy, only truth, the kind of truth the Stoics carved in stone. So let us begin. Chapter 1. The Tyranny of the Unfocused Mind. The Stoics believed that a person without focus is a person enslaved, not by chains, but by their own scattered attention. Yet today, most of us live as if the opposite is true. Our attention is snatched away by the glow of screens, by the trivial arguments of strangers online, by the endless cycle of news, entertainment, and noise. We consume more than we create. We react more than we reflect. Our minds, instead of being tools of clarity, become cluttered basements where other people's agendas pile up. The modern world has industrialized distraction. Algorithms are designed to pull your focus. Entire economies profit from your divided mind. The result is that we have grown reactive, easily disturbed, unable to sit in silence and direct our minds inward. Most people cannot sit alone in a room without instinctively reaching for a device, without craving noise to fill the space. The Stoics would see this not as a technological problem, but as a spiritual one. Focus is not a natural gift, it is a cultivated discipline. The Stoics knew this. They trained themselves to see the difference between what was worthy of their attention and what was a thief of their peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations not to waste what remains of your life in guessing what others are doing and thinking. Every day, you are faced with a choice. 1,000 small moments where the world asks for your mind. Do you control your mind, or do you let the world control it for you? That choice is made in the mundane. Whether you check your phone first thing in the morning or spend those first 10 minutes meditating, whether you waste an hour arguing with someone who adds no value to your life or invest that time learning, building, or creating, whether you postpone what matters for what is easy and comfortable, or whether you make yourself uncomfortable in the service of what is important. The unfocused mind is not neutral. It is enslaved by whatever is loudest, by the voices and demands that shout the most but mean the least. It is a mind pulled in every direction except the one that matters, its own. In the absence of clear, directed attention, your mental energy becomes an open pasture for anyone and anything to graze upon. You will never command yourself if you cannot command your attention. It is the root from which all self-mastery grows. Without attention, your values are diluted, your decisions compromised, and your time stolen minute by minute without you even noticing. Your ability to act deliberately, to believe in your own agency, begins here, with the discipline to decide what enters your mind and what is left outside the gates. Focus is the muscle of the soul. It is not passive. It is trained, honed, protected, and deliberately exercised every single day. Like any muscle, it grows stronger through resistance, through practice, through the discipline of turning away from what is tempting but trivial and turning towards what is difficult but essential. It requires vigilance because the world is relentless in its efforts to fracture your attention. Every advertisement, every ping of a notification, every passing worry is an attempt to weaken your focus, to scatter your mind like leaves in the wind. Without conscious effort, you become a servant to these forces, bending to every whim and distraction that demands your attention. And until you learn to command your attention, you will continue to serve the agendas of others rather than the principles of your own heart. You will live on the terms of the marketplace, the gossip, the algorithm, and not on the terms of your own values, dreams, or purpose. Master your focus, and you master the gateway to freedom itself. To cultivate focus, begin each morning by identifying 3 things that deserve your attention. Write them down carefully and deliberately. These are not mere tasks. They are the anchors of your day, the things that will move your life forward. When you choose them, choose wisely. Choose what is meaningful, not what is urgent. Choose what strengthens you, not what merely occupies you. Once you have written them down, carry them with you, whether on paper, in your phone, or committed to memory. Throughout the day, when the inevitable distractions arise, pause and ask yourself, is this part of my 3? Does this deserve my mental space, or is it a thief of my focus? This question is not just a filter, it is a practice of sovereignty over your own mind. The goal is not rigid perfection, but conscious redirection. Every time you find yourself drifting into gossip, into social media, into pointless worry, bring yourself back with this simple question. Your mind is your most valuable asset. Treat it as such. Each evening, review your 3 priorities. Ask yourself, did I honor them? Did I give them the attention they deserved? Or did I let lesser things invade my day? This reflection is crucial. It teaches you not only to focus, but to course correct. Over time, this discipline compounds. You will begin to notice how much energy you have wasted on the trivial and how much power you reclaim when you spend your attention intentionally. Reclaim your time, one decision at a time. Reclaim your peace, one moment at a time. Reclaim your life, one focused action at a time. Chapter 2. The Power of Self-Belief. Epictetus once wrote, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But how do you react when you secretly doubt yourself? When the voice inside your head whispers that you are not enough, that you lack what it takes, that others are somehow more deserving, more capable, more powerful. This is the battlefield the Stoics knew well, not the battlefield of armies, but the inner war between who you are and who you believe yourself to be. The Stoics did not teach blind arrogance. They taught an earned, disciplined belief in oneself, not belief that you are superior to others, not belief based on hollow affirmations or shallow confidence, but belief that you are capable, that you are worthy, that you are responsible for your own development. To them, self-belief was not a mood, not something gifted by fortune or external praise. It was a moral obligation, a duty to oneself. You do not arrive at belief because someone compliments you. You arrive at belief because you build it, brick by brick, in the trenches of your daily life. Self-belief is not a feeling, it is an action. It is the result of the choices you make every single day, in the small hours when no one is watching, and in the big moments when you stand at the crossroads of ease and effort. Every time you choose the hard thing instead of the easy one, you lay down another stone in the path toward unshakable confidence. Every time you refuse the temptation to procrastinate or avoid discomfort, you cast a vote for the person you are becoming. This process is not glamorous. It is not loud or celebrated. It is quiet, often unseen, but powerful beyond measure. When you speak the truth instead of the convenient lie, even when it costs you, you demonstrate to yourself that your integrity is not for sale. When you face what is uncomfortable instead of running from it, whether it is a difficult conversation, a painful truth, or an unpleasant task, you reinforce the idea that you are strong enough to endure, that you can be trusted to show up for your own life. Every decision you make is a vote in favor of the person you wish to become. Those votes are not cast in grand moments. They are cast in the ordinary. In the choice to wake up early and work on your craft. In the decision to keep your word when it would be easier to break it. In the act of giving your best when no one is watching. And when you consistently choose discipline over ease, truth over comfort, courage over avoidance, those votes begin to accumulate. They become the architecture of your identity. Over time, something miraculous happens. You no longer wait for permission to believe in yourself because you have gathered undeniable proof of who you are. You no longer need the approval of others to validate your worth because you have built it brick by brick, day by day, through the evidence of your own behavior. The world cannot give you self-belief. No amount of praise, applause, or validation will anchor you if you do not first anchor yourself. If your worth is dependent on external voices, it will rise and fall with their approval, and you will live at the mercy of their opinions. But if you earn your belief through action, through the consistent, disciplined, honest work of becoming, you will possess something no one can take from you. It becomes rooted deep within, like an oak tree grown from years of tending the soil of your character, its roots strong enough to weather any storm, its branches high enough to touch the sky. Each evening, take 5 minutes to reflect on one thing you did that made you proud. It doesn't have to be monumental. Did you speak kindly when you could have snapped? Did you push through discomfort to finish a task? These small wins are bricks in the foundation of self-belief. Chapter 3. The Discipline of Action. The Stoics were men of words, but more importantly, they were men of deeds. They wrote their teachings, but they lived them first. Seneca reminds us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. We dream, we plan, we wish, but often we do not act. Our minds become safe harbors where we fantasize about the person we could become, while the tides of real life pass us by. Why? Because action is uncomfortable. Action requires effort, risk, and the willingness to face failure. It invites rejection, discomfort, and uncertainty. It forces us to step into unknown territory, to put ourselves on the line, to risk not only failure, but the painful exposure of our inadequacies. It is easier to scroll, to gossip, to talk about what we will do someday, to live in the safety of our own minds where there are no consequences. We become spectators of our own potential, paralyzed by the unknown and seduced by the illusion of someday. We tell ourselves we are preparing, researching, thinking it through, but often this is just procrastination disguised as prudence. Behind our delay hides the fear that we may not be enough, that if we dare to step forward, we might fall short. So we postpone, living in imaginary victories while the real battle is never fought. The Stoics understood this all too well. They knew that without action, philosophy is nothing but empty talk. sophisticated words without a spine. What good is knowing the right thing if you do not do it? What use is wisdom if it never leaves the pages of a book and becomes breath in your lungs, sweat on your brow, or courage in your chest? They believed that the gap between knowledge and action was the very measure of one's integrity. They believed that knowledge was only a seed. It is action that waters it, sunlight that nourishes it, discipline that prunes it, and experience that strengthens its roots. Without action, your life will be full of intentions, but empty of results. Without action, you will carry the weight of untapped potential, a burden heavier than failure itself. You will live with the quiet regret of knowing you could have, but didn't. You will wake up each day to the haunting realization that you are a bystander in your own story, watching from the sidelines as your ambitions rust away. The gap between who you are and who you wish to be is bridged by action. Each day you hesitate, that gap widens. Each day you choose comfort over effort. The distance between your current self and your potential self grows like a chasm. The Stoics taught that what matters is not what you think, but what you do. Philosophy, they believed, was not a retreat into intellectual comfort, but a training ground for the battlefield of life. They practiced so that when life's tests arrived, they were not found wanting. You do not need more information. You need execution. You need to stop waiting for the perfect moment, the right mood, the stars to align, or for courage to magically appear. The truth is, there is no perfect moment. There is only now, the imperfect, unpredictable, raw, present moment that demands something of you. Every second you hesitate, every moment you delay, you are allowing life to slip past you like sand through your fingers. You trade your future for the fleeting comfort of indecision. The Stoics would tell you that hesitation is the enemy of transformation. You cannot think your way into becoming who you are meant to be. You must act your way there. And often, that first act is awkward, messy, uncomfortable. It will rarely look heroic. It will look like sending one email when you're terrified of rejection. It will look like showing up at the gym on the days you'd rather stay in bed. It will look like speaking up when it would be easier to stay silent. But it is better to stumble forward than to remain frozen by the illusion of preparation. You need to make the call, write the email, lift the weight, have the conversation. You need to take the first awkward, imperfect step. You need to stop overanalyzing, stop replaying scenarios in your head, and step into motion. Every second spent waiting is a second lost forever. Every day spent trapped in indecision is a day you will never get back. When you act, you engage with life directly. You stop being a spectator and become a participant. You step into the current of reality, where things move and change and grow. You invite mistakes, but you also invite progress. You invite failure, but also the chance of triumph. Action is not guaranteed to bring immediate success, but inaction guarantees failure. Inaction ensures that you remain stuck, unmoved, unchanged. Every moment you choose to delay action is a moment you will never reclaim, a door closed forever. When you act, you step into the river of reality instead of watching it pass from the safety of the shore. You expose yourself to the risk of falling, but you also give yourself the chance to fly. You stop theorizing and start shaping. You stop imagining and start becoming. It is in the doing, not the dreaming, that transformation begins. Every action, no matter how small, is a step toward the person you are destined to be. The difference between the Stoic and the passive person is not knowledge, it is action. It is the willingness to pay the price of discomfort in exchange for growth. It is the courage to stand up from the comfort of thought and enter the uncomfortable, unpredictable world of doing. It is the audacity to fail forward, to stumble and rise again, to learn through experience instead of living trapped by theory. It is the quiet, unglamorous resolve to act again and again in service of who you are becoming. It is the understanding that greatness is built in small, consistent efforts, not in a flash of brilliance, but in the steady drumbeat of disciplined behavior. It is knowing that the person you wish to be is shaped not in theory, but in the living laboratory of effort, sweat, and resilience. It is knowing that each day, each decision, each deliberate act is a chisel in your hand, shaping the statue of the person you are meant to become. No one else can hold that chisel for you. No one else can craft your character or carve out your destiny. In every moment you choose to act, you choose to become. And in each choice, you reveal not only who you are, but who you are willing to become, one action at a time. Each morning, alongside your 3 priorities, choose one clear action step that will move you forward. Make it specific and concrete so there is no ambiguity in what must be done. Not get healthier, but run for 20 minutes. Not get in shape, but do 100 push-ups today. Not be kinder, but call a friend and check in. The action must be simple, clear, and non-negotiable. The key is not to overwhelm yourself with complexity, but to create a direct line between intention and execution. Do not leave room for negotiation with your own excuses. Your action step is a declaration to yourself that you are willing to move forward, even when it is inconvenient or uncomfortable. By making this action step specific and measurable, you remove the vagueness that allows procrastination to creep in. You will either do it or you will not. There will be no middle ground, no place to hide behind vague intentions. Over time, these small but deliberate actions will accumulate. Each one will become a stepping stone, building momentum and self-respect. This is how the Stoic builds their life, not by grand resolutions, but by the daily practice of clear, focused, disciplined action. Chapter 4. Obstacles as teachers of focus. Life will not make it easy for you to focus. In fact, the world will throw every possible obstacle in your path. Interruptions, setbacks, disappointments, people who misunderstand you, and even your own doubts and anxieties. You will be pulled in every direction by demands, distractions, and unpredictable circumstances. Every time you sit down to concentrate, something will conspire to pull you away, whether it is external noise or internal restlessness. The Stoics taught that obstacles are not interruptions, they are the path itself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." To the Stoic, life's obstacles are not cruel punishments or accidents. They are essential ingredients in the development of your character. Without resistance, there is no strength. Without difficulty, there is no discipline. When you encounter obstacles, you are being given an invitation to sharpen your focus. A noisy environment teaches you to tune inwards, to become undistracted by what you cannot control. A difficult conversation teaches you to control your emotions, to listen more carefully, to speak more deliberately. A failure teaches you to examine where your attention was misdirected and how you can realign it. Every challenge you face is like a weight placed upon your mind. It will either crush you or make you stronger, depending on how you choose to engage with it. Obstacles reveal to you the areas where you are weakest, where your focus is brittle, where your mind still wanders without command. Each disruption, each failure, each disappointment is a mirror held up to you, showing you how much further you have to go in mastering yourself. The Stoic does not curse the obstacle, the Stoic welcomes it. They see in each hardship the raw material of their own growth. They understand that focus is not forged in quiet, perfect conditions, but in the middle of chaos and conflict. They know that clarity is born in the furnace of adversity, not in the absence of it. Each obstacle, each interruption, each unexpected difficulty is not a punishment, but an invitation to sharpen their internal command. When the world becomes loud, the Stoic turns inward and becomes louder in their own clarity. They do not allow the noise outside to deafen the voice of reason and discipline within. Instead, they use the noise as a reminder to go deeper, to strengthen their ability to remain still in a storm. When others scatter their attention, the Stoic gathers theirs. When the path is blocked, the Stoic learns to find a new way or to build a road where none existed. They do not wait for life to clear the way, they clear it themselves. And if the obstacle cannot be moved, they learn to climb over it or to reshape their journey around it, never losing sight of the direction they have chosen. This is not theory. It is how you train yourself to endure, to adapt, and ultimately to triumph, not over the world, but over your own divided mind. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to practice mastery over yourself, to test your ability to remain focused and unshaken amid the storm. It is a reminder that the obstacle is not in the way, the obstacle is the way. Chapter 5. Belief is earned in the small moments. We often imagine belief in ourselves as something grand, a speech on a mountaintop, a moment of glory, a public declaration met with thunderous applause. But the Stoics knew better. They knew that such moments are rare and fleeting. Belief is not born in applause. It is forged in the furnace of discipline and choice. It is crafted in the small, invisible decisions you make when no one is watching and when no one will praise you for doing the right thing. It is in those moments when you are tired, distracted, tempted to quit, that belief is either built or broken. These moments do not announce themselves with fanfare. They slip into your day quietly, when you feel the pull to give up, to cut corners, to let yourself off the hook. They appear when no one would notice if you chose the easy path, but you would notice, and that is what matters. Every time you honor a commitment to yourself, whether it is waking up early when you want to sleep in, speaking the truth when it would be easier to lie, or showing up when it would be easier to retreat, you are casting a vote for the person you want to become. These votes are not abstract. They are tangible, measurable moments of personal integrity. They are how you quietly tell yourself, "I can trust me." Each of these votes matters. They accumulate like drops of water filling a vessel, slowly but surely, until one day the vessel overflows into the reality of who you have become. And when that day comes, you will realize that the person you hoped to be was never born in one grand decision, but in 1,000 small, deliberate ones. These small moments are not isolated. They are the threads from which the fabric of your character is woven, and over time, that fabric becomes untearable. And every time you lie to yourself, break your word, or avoid discomfort, you erode your belief in your own character. You reinforce the narrative that you cannot be trusted, that your promises are hollow, that your values are negotiable. These small betrayals may seem insignificant in the moment, but they are what shape your self-image over time. They become the cracks in the foundation of your self-worth, growing wider with every decision to turn away from what is hard but right. Every ignored promise is like a chisel against the stone of your self-respect, carving away confidence piece by piece. The Stoics urged us to live in alignment with our values, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet consistency of daily practice. They knew that it is not in moments of public victory that belief is earned. It is in the private, lonely moments when no one is watching, when there is no reward except the knowledge that you did what was right. It is in those ordinary moments that you teach yourself who you really are. It is in those early mornings when you choose to rise. It is in those uncomfortable conversations you choose to have. It is in the discipline to do the work even when there is no audience. It is when you choose discipline over ease, truth over convenience, integrity over short-term comfort, that you chisel away at doubt and insecurity. Each act of integrity, Each small moment of keeping your word is a blow to the internal critic that tells you you are not enough. Each time you follow through, you silence that critic a little more. The Stoics understood that who you are when no one is watching is who you truly are. That is the proving ground of character, the arena where the loudest noise is not from the crowd, but from the quiet, relentless voice inside your own mind. It is in that private space, when there are no eyes upon you, no applause waiting, no judgment hovering, that belief is built. It is there, in the stillness of your solitude, that the seeds of real confidence are planted and nurtured. That is where belief is built, when you keep your word, follow through, and choose the difficult path, simply because it is the right one. Not because it will win you praise, not because someone is watching, but because you owe it to yourself to live in alignment with your values. Every time you resist the temptation to cut corners, every time you choose effort over ease, every time you stay true to your principles when no one is looking, you are building something far more valuable than a reputation. You are building a foundation of self-trust. Over time, these small moments become your proof. They accumulate quietly and steadily, like drops of water wearing away stone. They become the mountain of evidence that you can rely upon yourself, that you will stand firm when it matters, that you do not abandon your own standards when no one else would know. This is not something you can fake. It is not something you can borrow. It is something you must earn, one choice at a time. And that proof becomes belief. Not belief based on wishful thinking or borrowed confidence or fleeting external validation, but belief forged in the furnace of consistent, quiet, unglamorous discipline. Belief that does not crumble when someone disapproves, that does not shake when circumstances change, that does not wilt under the weight of uncertainty. The kind of belief that is unshakable because it is built on undeniable, lived experience. It is the kind of belief that radiates outward, not because you announce it, but because it is embedded in every action you take and every word you speak. Identify one non-negotiable habit that reflects the person you want to become. It can be as simple as making your bed every morning, exercising daily, or writing for 10 minutes. Keep it small, but do it relentlessly. Over time, this habit will become proof to yourself that you can be trusted. Chapter 6. The courage to act without approval. One of the greatest barriers to action is the fear of judgment. We hesitate because we worry about what others will think. We hold back because we fear the disapproval, the smirks, the silent criticisms of those around us. This fear is subtle, yet it governs many of our decisions. It prevents us from speaking up, from starting something new, from stepping outside the lines others have drawn for us. The Stoics understood that this fear is a prison we build for ourselves, a prison with invisible bars but real consequences. If you want to improve, Epictetus said, be content to be thought foolish. He knew that the price of growth is often the willingness to be misunderstood, mocked, or dismissed. The opinions of others are like the wind, constantly shifting, uncontrollable, and utterly outside of your command. If you tether your self-worth to their applause, you will spend your life chasing a shadow that recedes as you approach it. To act yourself, to live according to your own principles, you must become indifferent to the applause or criticism of the crowd. You must understand that their approval is fleeting, shallow, and outside of your control. Their praise will not last. Their criticism will not destroy you. The only judgment that matters is the one you render upon yourself when you reflect at the end of the day. True freedom is the ability to act in alignment with your values, regardless of whether others approve. It is the rare and powerful ability to stand alone, to speak your truth, to live your life without shrinking or performing. It is knowing that your worth is not rented from the crowd, but owned by you, built through discipline, integrity, and the relentless decision to live as you believe, not as others demand. This week, identify one action you have been avoiding out of fear of judgment. Take that action deliberately. It could be speaking up in a meeting, posting your work online, or setting a boundary. Do it not for approval, but as a declaration of your freedom. Chapter 7. The Foundation of Consistency. The Stoics knew something that the modern world too often forgets. Greatness is not achieved in grand leaps, but in disciplined steps, repeated again and again. Consistency is the force that shapes destiny. It is not enough to focus once, to believe in yourself for a day, or to act in bursts of enthusiasm. The true test is whether you can sustain these practices when the initial fire fades, when motivation disappears, and when no one is watching. Most people live their lives in short-lived bursts of discipline. They set goals in a moment of inspiration, but fail to follow through. They commit to their priorities for a week, then abandon them at the first sign of fatigue, failure, or distraction. They ride waves of motivation, unaware that motivation is a fickle friend, one that visits in flashes but refuses to stay. The Stoics saw this as the tragedy of potential wasted, not because people are incapable, but because they lack the stamina of consistency. They understood that discipline, not motivation, is the key ingredient in crafting a life of excellence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You become what you give your attention to day after day." The power of consistency is not glamorous, it is not loud, it does not make headlines or win applause. It will never trend online or be celebrated with parades. It is the quiet repetition of effort, the deliberate choice to keep moving forward when the spark of motivation has long since faded. It is the daily decision to honor your values, to persist when enthusiasm has worn off, and to hold yourself to a higher standard when it would be easier, far easier, to quit and fade back into comfort. It is the decision to rise each morning and do the work, even when you don't feel like it, even when you're tired, bored, or uncertain, even when no one is looking and no one will ever know. It is understanding that you will not transform yourself in a week, that your life will not shift overnight, but that you will become unrecognizable in a year if you commit to steady progress. You will become the person you admire, not through rare moments of brilliance, but through persistent, sometimes tedious, repetition. The Stoics believed that character is not built in rare acts of heroism, but in daily, ordinary choices. It is forged not in dramatic victories, but in how you respond to routine challenges, how you show up when the novelty has worn off, how you act when no one is there to praise you or hold you accountable. True discipline is built in obscurity. Consistency is what separates those who merely dream of strength from those who embody it. Each day is a vote cast in favor of the person you are becoming. Each repetition is another thread woven into the fabric of who you are. There is no shortcut. There is no secret formula. There is only the relentless, disciplined, quiet work of returning to your principles, of choosing effort over ease, of pushing forward when you would rather stop. What the Stoics knew, and what we must relearn, is that discipline is not about perfection. It is about presence. It is about showing up again and again, even when conditions are less than ideal, even when you are tired, distracted, or uninspired. It is about understanding that the real measure of strength is not how hard you can push once, but how steadily you can carry the weight every single day. Consistency is not a glamorous virtue, but it is the most reliable one. It is the thread that weaves dreams into reality, that transforms intention into identity. It is how you build a life worth living, one ordinary, disciplined day at a time. Choose one area of your life, physical, mental, or emotional, where you desire improvement. Do not make this choice casually. Take the time to honestly reflect on where you have been inconsistent, where you have been letting yourself down, where your energy leaks away. Then, commit to one small, clear, sustainable action in that area. The action must be simple enough that you cannot excuse yourself from doing it, but meaningful enough that it builds momentum over time. Make a promise to yourself not to miss a single day for 30 days. Do not aim to change everything at once. Instead, choose something so clear and manageable that you can sustain it even on your worst day. It could be 5 minutes of meditation, 10 push-ups, or writing one paragraph. It could be practicing gratitude each night, journaling one honest thought each morning, or stretching before bed. Track it. Write it down every day without exception. Create a visible record of your discipline, a journal, a wall calendar, a checklist, something that shows you in undeniable terms that you are keeping your word to yourself. You will begin to notice how the very act of consistency itself becomes its own source of pride and strength. It will shift from a task you have to do into a ritual you refuse to break because it represents the person you are becoming. The Stoics knew that the greatest victories are not won in public, but in private, day by day, in the choices no one else sees. As you practice this one small act daily, you will not only improve in that area, you will develop the muscle of follow-through, of self-respect, and of inner strength. And soon, the ripple effect will touch every part of your life. Chapter 8: The Art of Self-Direction. Focus, belief, and action are the tools. But what ties them together is self-direction, the ability to steer your life according to your principles, not your impulses. Without self-direction, these tools are scattered, disconnected, unable to drive meaningful change. The Stoics believed that without the capacity to direct yourself, to consciously choose where to aim your mind, your energy, and your actions, you would live reactively, pulled by the demands, expectations, and chaos of the world. Your days would not be your own. They would belong to circumstance, to distraction, to the moods and desires of others who do not carry your responsibility. Seneca wrote, "If a man does not know to which port he is sailing, no wind is favorable." These words were not idle philosophy, they were a map for living. If you lack self-direction, you will become a slave to circumstances, to the moods of others, to external conditions beyond your control. You will drift, tossed by the currents of chance, rather than choosing the direction of your own voyage. You will live at the mercy of fortune, not mastery. You will find yourself busy but aimless, reacting but never leading, full of activity but empty of purpose. The Stoics understood that without intentional direction, you would fall victim to every distraction, every petty conflict, every hollow demand placed upon you by the world. They knew that a life without direction is a life dictated by the noise around you. It is not enough to focus, you must know what you are focusing on. It is not enough to act. You must know why you are acting. Self-direction is not rigid control. It is clarity combined with flexibility. It is knowing what you stand for, where you want to go, and adapting your course without losing sight of the destination. It is the ability to say yes and no with intention, to choose your battles wisely, to know when to yield and when to hold the line. It is an inner compass, guiding you regardless of how turbulent the external world becomes. The Stoics practiced daily reflection not as a ritual, but as a necessity, to review their actions, measure them against their values, and make adjustments. They knew that without this practice, they would unconsciously slip into habits and choices that served everyone but themselves. Reflection was not a luxury, it was a requirement for anyone who wished to live deliberately and with purpose. In the modern world, self-direction is your defense against chaos. Without it, your time, energy, and attention will be spent serving the agendas of others. Every advertisement, every demand, every notification will pull you away from yourself. Every social expectation, every cultural trend will nudge you off your path if you do not choose to hold the wheel firmly. But with self-direction, you can build a life of intentionality, where every choice reflects who you are and who you are becoming. You can stop reacting to life and start shaping it, one clear decision at a time. You can become the captain of your soul, navigating through the storms with calm resolve, because you know exactly where you are headed. And when the storms rage and the winds howl, you will not lose your way, because you have already decided who you are and where you are going. Each Sunday evening, conduct a weekly review. Ask yourself, where did I lose direction this week? Where did I act impulsively rather than intentionally? What will I do differently next week to stay aligned with my values? Write your answers. Set 3 intentions for the coming week that reflect who you wish to become. Chapter 9. The Wisdom of Restraint. The Stoics taught that not every battle is worth fighting, not every emotion is worth expressing, and not every impulse deserves obedience. While much of this lecture has focused on action and belief, it is equally vital to understand the wisdom of restraint. Restraint is not weakness, it is strength channeled in its most disciplined form. It is the mature recognition that life is not a series of endless battles to be fought, but a careful selection of what is worthy of your energy and what is not. It is knowing when to move and when to pause, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait, when to yield and when to hold firm. Epictetus warned, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." But part of what you have to do is master when not to act, when to choose stillness over reaction. There is a quiet, subtle power in knowing that you are capable of action, yet deliberately choosing not to act because the situation does not merit it. It is the power of self-governance, the refusal to let circumstances dictate your behavior. We live in a culture of immediacy, where quick reactions are rewarded and noisy opinions fill every space. The expectation is to respond immediately, to comment without reflection, to shout louder in the hope of being heard. But the Stoics believed that wisdom often lies in what you choose not to do. They practiced the art of holding back, of restraining themselves from being pulled into the frenzy of emotions or the chaos of the crowd. They recognized that reacting to every slight, every offense, every provocation is a surrender of power. Restraint is focus in motion. It is a deep understanding that energy is finite and that wasted action is worse than no action at all. It is not suppression, it is discernment. It is knowing that not everything deserves your energy, not every offense deserves a response, not every desire deserves fulfillment. It is the realization that peace is not found in controlling the world, but in controlling yourself. Restraint is a reminder that you are not obligated to react to everything. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is no move at all, choosing instead to conserve your strength for the battles that matter. For 1 week, practice the habit of pause. When you feel the urge to react, to respond to criticism, to defend yourself unnecessarily, to argue over trivial matters, stop, count to 10, breathe. Ask yourself, is this worthy of my focus? Will this serve my principles, or is it merely noise? In those pauses, you will discover that restraint is not passivity, it is power. Chapter 10. The Unshakable Self. All the teachings of the Stoics, focus, belief, action, consistency and restraint, point toward one final aim, the cultivation of the unshakable self. A person who is internally fortified, who does not rise and fall with every external change, who remains calm, disciplined, and purposeful no matter what the world throws at them. A person who understands that their worth, their peace, and their direction are sourced from within, not handed over to the unpredictable whims of the world. The Stoics did not promise a life without difficulty. They promised something far more valuable, that you could become someone who was equal to the difficulty, that you could train yourself to meet every challenge with a composed mind, an anchored heart, and a clear sense of what matters most. They taught that you could build an inner fortress, a character so well built, so disciplined, that storms may rage outside, but inside you remain grounded, unmoved, unshaken. The unshakable self is born when you internalize this truth, not as a comforting idea, but as a way of being. It is born when you take full responsibility for how you think, how you believe, how you act. When you stop outsourcing your peace and power to anything beyond your control, whether it be fortune, other people's opinions, or the shifting circumstances of life. When you stop reacting and start responding with intention. The process of building the unshakable self is not a single decision, but 1,000 small decisions made over time. It is the accumulation of disciplined thought, deliberate action, and purposeful restraint. It is a quiet, invisible process that unfolds in the background of your life, brick by brick, moment by moment. Each time you choose to hold your focus when everything around you tries to scatter it, you lay down a stone. Each time you choose to believe in yourself when doubt whispers its familiar lies, you add another layer. Each time you act when it would be easier to hesitate, each time you show up when no one is watching, each time you restrain yourself when reaction would be easier, you reinforce the walls of that fortress. The unshakable self is not a product of grand gestures. It is built in the mundane, in the ordinary, in the relentless decision to master yourself when no one else is paying attention. It is the sum of countless inner victories over your own impulses and weaknesses. It is built when you choose focus over distraction, belief over doubt, action over hesitation, consistency over impulsiveness, and restraint over reaction. Each choice is a stone in the fortress you are constructing within yourself, each decision an act of self-respect and clarity. Over time, these stones stack into something impenetrable, something unshakable. The world will never stop trying to distract you, discourage you, and demand your energy. It will shout at you to react, to worry, to scatter your attention, to abandon yourself in the chaos of noise and opinion. It will continue to tempt you with noise, chaos, fear, and false promises, telling you that peace is somewhere out there, that strength is something you can buy, that validation comes from applause. But when you have trained yourself to focus, believe, act, and restrain, when you have invested in the slow, patient construction of your character, you become untouchable. Not because life becomes easy, not because the storms disappear, but because you have become strong. Because you have become the kind of person who can endure the storm and still stand tall. Because you have become a person who does not rise and fall with fortune, who is not at the mercy of others' opinions, who remains anchored even when the ground shakes beneath them. You have learned that your peace is not purchased with praise, nor is your strength shaken by criticism. You have come to rely on the steady rhythm of your own discipline, knowing that the external world may change without warning, but your inner compass remains steadfast. This kind of strength is not showy. It does not demand recognition. It is quiet, resilient, and self-contained. It is not fragile like reputation or social approval. It is not conditional like wealth or circumstances. It is built deep within, where no one can reach but you. It is the product of countless ordinary decisions to hold yourself to your own standard, regardless of who is watching or what the world thinks. That is the unshakable self the Stoics taught us to become. A self built not in theory, but in practice, not in comfort, but in challenge, not in isolation, but in engagement with the real, messy, unpredictable nature of life. A self that does not crumble under pressure or sway with the winds of opinion. A self that has faced hardship, temptation, and failure, and has emerged stronger, wiser, and more resolute. A self that is not merely unbothered, but unbreakable. A self that, when the noise of the world grows deafening, can retreat inward and find silence. A self that, when fortune turns against you, stands firm and unwavering. This is the self that endures, not because the world is kind, but because you have made yourself invincible from within. Every evening, reflect on this question. What today was outside my control, and how did I respond to it? Write down your answers. Over time, you will notice how little is actually within your power, and how much peace you can find when you commit to mastering what is.